Do you want to achieve your dreams, defeat fear, crush anxiety, conquer average? We're going to show you how you can achieve all of these specific goals, and we're going to start right now. Lifting heavy weights can help you improve your confidence levels. It can improve your overall work ethic. It can even get you to boldly go where no one has gone before. Okay, maybe it's not that crazy, but training for sports performance can be incredibly rewarding. We can see an immediate response and improvement to our power output, our strength levels. We can see a direct improvement in speed and an overall improvement in how we handle stress on a regular basis. But we have to understand how to properly organize our training. Lifting heavy teaches athletes various aspects around mind control. Think about all the doubt that people have when they're just trying to jump on a box or squat heavy weight. You have to get under the bar and push all those doubt-based thoughts out of your mind. You've really got to dig deep and believe in all of the work that you've put in. And this is where the anxiety, the fear, and the doubt likely will start to subside. But what happens next? We have to have a good understanding of planning and periodization. And to do that, we've got to recap periodization generally real quickly. So in periodization, we have to have a step-by-step structure, but that structure needs to be dynamic. Each phase or period of training enables us as coaches and as athletes to deal with different forms of stress that leads to a form of adaptation. And this might be dealing with physical and mental stress. This enables us as coaches and as athletes to then better predict the outcome from training. So if we're training for sports performance or if we're training for some specific event, now we know based off of the structure of our periodization that when we give specific types of training methods or specific types of exercises, we can elicit a good response or potentially a neutral response depending upon when someone is going to peak. That's what makes periodization so effective. So if we can understand strength characteristics for sports, if we know what time of year, that sport identification, okay? What time of year are we in? Then we can lead to what type of athlete are we dealing with? That goes back to our athlete reactive analysis. Then we can start to piece together what's that weekly workout split going to look like? What are the exercises going to be that we place in there? And then what are the reps and sets that we're going to use? This is a key factor behind periodization that can ultimately lead to a better response. As an athlete progresses and gets closer to a peak, how can we set them up for ultimate success? First, we need to know where they are within that season of training. What period of the year are they in specific to their sport? This helps us narrow down the point in the periodization, which then influences the type of program that we will be building. Let's say that they just finished the ascension phase. You guys already know what that is. You already watched that video. Now we can start to smash even more weights during the summit phase. So some of the attributes of the summit phase that we're actually gonna start off with a deload. Remember back to the ascension phase, we talked about a 33% decrease in overall volume. What that means for us during the summit phase is that we're gonna start to feel pretty fresh. We've got that deload in volume again during the summit phase, and that means we're gonna be ready to smash weights. And so this is when we're going to see that metacognitive reaction. Okay, this is really going to start to summit and build. We're going to see an improvement in our mind and an improvement in our overall physical body. And we're going to want our athletes to really take big attempts at various PRs in the weight room. Doing that safely, of course. This is when exercises become more complex. And now, if we look at the weeks that we're talking about, now we're starting to look at a Zen athlete might be a little bit sluggish during week 14, week 15 of training. But by the time they get into week 16, they really start to take true form. Social athletes need to be monitored pretty closely during the summit phase because they can have crazy peaks because they're starting to hit big lifts. But if they go a couple days where they feel sluggish and they're not hitting big lifts, they're gonna go right down into the sewer. So we've got to remember what those Zen athletes are, the social athletes. And then that takes us into the exuberant athlete. Exuberant athletes during the summit phase want to lift heavy all the time, but we've got to put the brakes on them to a point. These are the athletes that really help lift up the room. They're loud, they're obnoxious, they slam bars when they hit big PRs, they talk a lot of trash. So we need to make sure that they're not killing themselves every single day in the weight room. So what are the main adaptations that we're looking for? First, we want to be focused on skill development. So we always talk about skill development from technical coordination. This means that we want movements that are going to transfer very, very well to specific sports. This means that exercises are going to get even more complex than what they were in the ascension phase. This also means that we want to keep building with speed development. We want our athletes to be faster. We want them to have a higher period of locomotion, okay, so that they can actually run quicker. We also want to develop that impulse expression. Remember, impulse comes back to how quickly you can move something in a short period of time. There's blast impulse, there's sustained impulse. Think about Jordan Burroughs hitting a blast double, okay? That's what we're really trying to zero in on during the summit phase. The most important attribute during the summit phase is that this is when everybody turns into an elastic freak. This is when we build tremendous attitude, okay? This is when our confidence is at its peak. We're really starting to summit here, okay? With that attitude, and now all of a sudden, you know, to the best of your ability, you can go out and smash all of your opponents. You can achieve all of those goals that you've been training for over the last 16 weeks. Okay, so now in the summit phase, some of the main focus is that we're getting closer to the season. So if we're referring back to the ascension phase, when we brought out the example talking specifically about football, that would have been the period around June. Now, if football starts in August, we know that this is getting close to the season. This is most likely going to be July, okay? The end of June into July. So we've got about 3 to 5 weeks before we get into that peak performance or before we get into the start of the season. And so this is going to be, you know, we started with the exposure phase. That's weeks 1 through 4. Then we led into that comprehension phase, 5 through 8, 5 through 9. The ascension phase took us up to week 12, and now we're in week 13. Okay, so we got week 13, 14, 15, 16, and week 17 here. Okay, there's going to be that deload in the beginning, so that can be a transition period from the ascension phase into the summit phase. And think about the summit phase. If you look at what periodization is in parabolic periodization, we start with the exposure phase. That's when we're being put in front of that challenge. Then we get through that honeymoon period, and now it's like comprehension phase is brutal. Okay, that's when people start to fail. That's when they start to fall off. That's when they start to question all of their dreams. But they have to comprehend, if they continue on that journey, that it's gonna be hard and they've gotta do the freaking work. Okay, then that takes us into the ascension phase, where now we're starting to ascend that mountain of work. We're starting to believe in ourselves, okay? And that takes us to the summit phase, where now we're getting to the top. We feel like we can accomplish anything because we have that confidence. We've conquered anxiety. We've dealt with our fears. We've dealt with our doubt by just putting the nose to the grindstone and doing that work. And so that's gonna take us into these specifics. We've gotta know, are we dealing with a combat athlete, a strength athlete, a court sport, a field sport? Okay, that's gonna change how we have specific layouts on our exercises, on our reps and sets, and even down to the point of potentially workout splits. On an athlete day, we have to be very, very specific with our training. We're gonna go into all this very shortly, but we've gotta have the angles broken down for the specific sports, and we've gotta train them in those positional angles, okay? So it's angles based off positions. Think about if we're a wide receiver or if we're a basketball player, we wanna hit the same joint angles from the same types of positions that we would be in the sport. And we wanna focus on the speed of coordination. It's gotta be rapid. That's gonna transfer really, really well. Leg day 1, that's when we're going heavy, okay? That's when we're smashing big time weight. And then the rest of that week, that's when we're gonna be moving things very, very fast. So that's one of the key factors that's going to lead to that high level of sports performance from the summit phase. Okay, so specifics are gonna be what we're diving into now. This is gonna be the layout, exercise types, reps and sets, workout split, based off the summit phase. So we're taking what we did in the ascension phase and we're just dialing it in just a little bit more. Okay, that's a key concept here. So if we go back to the ascension phase, and I challenge you to do this after you watch this entire video, we talked about technical coordination movements. We had one box clean in the ascension phase for football players. But during the summit phase, you could use a 2-box clean, because that's gonna put you in an even more specific position for that sport. So if I have linebackers or running backs, I'm doing 2-box cleans during this period, okay? Because now we're really getting into the specific application. If we have wrestlers, I originally said high butt snatch during the ascension phase, which is phenomenal. It's a great exercise. During the summit phase, we might do clean complexes, so like a power clean, a full clean, a front squat, okay, a Gwiz complex. And what that does is it emulates what they would be doing with scrambles. You're a wrestler and you take a shot and then you're defended upon and then you have to reshoot right away. That's a scramble. It might last 15, 20, 25 seconds. Okay, that's stuff that we're doing right now with the number 14 ranked South Dakota State wrestling program during the summit phase. They're heading into Big 12s. They're heading into the NCAA tournament as one of the absolute best programs in the entire country executing with this style of programming. That will also take us into the low hang clean for a swimmer. Originally we did a high hang clean or a high hang power clean. Now we're gonna get into that low hang clean where their butt gets a little bit higher, similar to what they're doing coming off the blocks. Okay, absolute strength. We're gonna still use some of the contrast methods or some easy antagonistic work, okay, when we're supersetting. Reflexive and skilled strength work. Well, I wanted to touch on this. We could use an exercise like a side drop back extension. So this is gonna train specific movement patterns, and it still might be under the guise of accessory, but it's gonna have a better transfer than just doing a traditional back extension. You know, if we talk about our South Dakota State example with our wrestlers, that movement might be a banded back extension to mimic someone getting heavy on the head for the wrestler. Okay, so you gotta play around with that and how that's gonna transfer really well. Now, let's get into reps and sets, and then we'll actually go back to that workout split for the whole week. So when we go to reps and sets, that technical coordination, again, these cleans, it might be 3 doubles, 7 singles on the minute. And what does that mean? That means you hit one of those 2-box cleans for a single, you drop it, you have 60 seconds. Then you gotta do that again. One of my favorite things that we can do with offensive linemen, let's take Javen Williams, who's a 5-star recruit. He's up at Penn State with early enrollment. One of the things that we did with him was 12 to 15 singles. Okay, that mimics that first quarter. Okay, that's what we have to prepare for. We can get into doing 7 singles of the same weight straight across, and then you might do 3 doubles where you're ramping to a big, heavy double. Or one of my favorites, technical coordination. We got 12 singles and we're gonna step load it. That means 3 singles, same weight, then we go up. 3 singles again, same weight. That gets us about 50% of the way through with those sets. Now the next 3, we're gonna do another same weight, okay? So 9 sets through, step loading. Then the last 3, we're going for broke. We're trying to hit a monster PR. Absolute strength exercises. We're gonna add some more sets with doubles. Okay, so now if we're doing more sets with doubles, that means our strength is gonna start to increase even more. We might even do 4 doubles or 5 doubles building up over time, and then do 1 drop set of 4 unbroken or very quickly. And then when we get into that hypertrophy and the reflexive work, hypertrophy will be below about 12 reps. Every once in a while, I think during the summit phase, you can still do 12 to 17, but I would typically keep that a little bit lower. Reflexive work, 4 sets of 5 on each side or 4 sets of 3 on each side. Now, we get into that workout split. Same thing, leg power day, we're going heavy, all right? Complex technical coordination movement, really strong absolute strength movement. Finish with specific skilled strength, that's key. Refer back to that drop side back extension. Okay, that's gonna have a direct transfer. Upper body power day, you're still gonna lift heavy. Okay, you wanna go for some heavy attempts on doubles or triples on bench or pull-ups or incline bench, anything along those lines. Then we wanna really focus on being more explosive. Okay, athlete day, remember we talked about this. This has to be more specific. Okay, we wanna focus on the speed of coordination and the joint angles that you're gonna be doing in those specific sports. Impulse day, fast. Fast, 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 okay? Fast and controlled. And then finally, the one thing with the hypertrophy that I wanted to talk about. If we have a hypertrophy period during the summit phase, okay, this is a key concept, all right? So if I have a shot putter and we're training 5 days a week, we are gonna do something specific like, let's say 4 sets of 7 unbroken with a close grip bench. That's gonna transfer really well. If we have a basketball player, we might do more sled work for their hypertrophy work to make sure that their knees are staying healthy, but they're also improving that leg strength. If we have a sprinter, we might do more Nordic hamstring curls or more unbroken one-legged squats, okay? But we wanna do it fast. We still wanna have some of that hypertrophic development, but we still need to be more specific during the summit phase. If we have a baseball player, we wanna make sure that we're focusing on dumbbell external rotations, trap 3 work, Ys on the incline, all of that area when we're trying to build out that hypertrophic growth. So summit phase, these are the specific exercise types. These are the reps and sets that you're going to use. And this is how that week would be laid out. If you don't train 5 days, take off hypertrophy right away. If you're only training 4 days. If you're only training 3 days, what I recommend doing is go day 1, leg power, day 2, upper body power, and then day 3 and 4, I would actually combine. Okay, I would combine into what those specific needs are for your athletes or to you as a self-taught athlete. Okay, but I really want to focus on day 1 and day 2, and then that day 3 would be a combo athlete day, impulse day. So make sure that you focus on the complexity of the exercise, you focus on the speed, on the joint angle, and overarching load at the beginning of the week so that you can keep developing into an absolute freak. So you've finally reached the summit in your peak performance, and you're edging closer and closer to what that peak phase is going to be, and that's going to be in our next video. We want to develop that cohesive program and understand the reactions that we're getting from each type of athlete. Programming and periodization is hard, but it doesn't have to be. That's exactly why we've created the Garage Strength Program Design. It's an entire course, 5 hours of lectures, along with a 180-page book. You can start to learn and figure out how you can best identify the time of year for those athletes, the specific sports that you're training, and also understand those strength characteristics, and then zero in on what phase are they in at different times of year, what types of exercises should they be using, what types of reps and sets should they be using, and then even down mining into what type of athlete are you dealing with. Are you dealing with that Zen type athlete? Are you dealing with the social athlete, or do you have that exuberant athlete? And that's exactly what you're gonna get when you pick up the Garage Strength Program Design Parabolic Periodization for Sports, available at garagestrength.com. And if you want to learn more about strength programming, periodization in general, make sure you check out our entire series on parabolic periodization, because remember, freaks, if you guys want to develop champions on a conveyor belt and you want to have everybody conquer their dreams, like going to the Olympics, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.